Most investors follow trends. Very few develop edge. This show focuses on something different: how serious operators build durable wealth in overlooked niches, starting with mobile home parks. We'll break down the strategy, underwriting, discipline, talk about the roadblocks, and the operational execution that'll make your capital aligned with long term returns. This isn't about chasing deals. It's about thinking like an allocator and executing like an operator. This is the Mobile Home Park Exchange. You know, they tell you that we make money raising rents on people who can't leave. Here's what we actually do. So this week, I was talking to a very good friend of mine, a broker friend of mine, who's in the industrial space, and he was walking me through a new build, a 330,000 square foot industrial building built on spec, 30-foot ceilings. I mean, full bays. I mean, everything is done right. It was beautiful, beautiful building. But there was one fundamental flaw and that we saw. There's wetlands surrounding the site. And when they built the building, they didn't leave room on the site or leave at least enough room on the site for truck parking. So a fleet operator, I mean, the most likely large tenant that probably has a fleet of trucks, and they're looking for one, maybe two tenants there tops, they can't function there easily. The potential tenant pool, because of how the building was designed and laid out, has just been cut in half. And led me to ask myself, like, why would this happen? How does a developer build 330,000 square feet of industrial space and miss something that, quite frankly, is so basic? And the answer, quite frankly, is the spreadsheet. Because on a spreadsheet, to make this deal work, it had to hit an IRR number. And that number works by developing 330,000 square feet. Maybe 285,000 square feet would have been the operationally efficient number. It would have leased faster. It would have actually worked. But the 285,000 square foot building didn't hit the IRR metric that they had to take back to the investment committee. So in this instance, the number became the mission, and ultimately the building paid for it. And by the time anyone figures this out, because it's a project that's been going on for 4 years, the developer would have received his acquisition fees, the development fees, whatever project management fees along the way, and the lease up. Well, that's the problem at the end. And probably it's the problem for somebody else by the time that comes to fruition. And this is what happens when the number or the metric drives the decision instead of serving it. So when I walked away from that building, I had one thought. How does this happen in the mobile home park space, where we see deals that are built to hit a number? And somewhere in that process, the number stops serving the deal and the deal starts working to serve that number. IRR as a headline is a great marketing tool. I mean, every deal is a 20% IRR. It looks great, and that headline, that's the clickbait that draws in the LP. That's, that's theoretically how the passive investment works, right? But what the headline doesn't show is the operational complexity that turns a passive pitch into a full-time business. It doesn't show the infill capital and time required, the infrastructure investment that has to be made, the J curve of where you have to make the asset a little bit worse financially to actually make it better. So I think operators who lead with that IRR metric are making two arguments simultaneously, and both of them contradict each other, right? You're saying, hey, I can get these high returns and it's easy to do that, right? Like all I got to do is a couple of quick levers and boom, there's this high returns that we're able to pull. And so you have to say that it's easy to do, but then trust my operational expertise where everything tells you down on the ground, the realities are sometimes a lot different. Here's the difference from walking that site and in what we do, right? In that commercial real estate site, in that industrial space that was built on spec, the party that comes in that's going to lease that, they already know what they're getting, right? Their eyes are opened and they realize if there's a floor in that site, they're going to negotiate that out in the lease. It's not a surprise that the parking there on site for trucks might be limited, that they might need another site nearby for iOS space. But in manufactured housing, family that lives there on site, they don't have the opportunity to see the pro forma. They don't know what the business plan is of the new owner. They don't know what the business plan assumes of rent increases in year 2, year 3. And they definitely don't know that the deal itself was structured to hit a number. All they know is that this is home. And when the assumptions don't hold, or the capital improvements weren't budgeted for, or under budgeted, and so now the rent schedule has to accelerate to hit that IRR metric to make it work, they're the ones that feel it. They feel it in their monthly payment. They feel it if there's deferred maintenance that doesn't get done, if the community's lost that community feel, the grass isn't being cut, the ditches are just a little dirtier, because they're the ones that actually have to be there on the ground. So this is not an argument against returns. I mean, ultimately returns matter, and you're not going to be able to make that investment if you're not going to be able to generate a return on that investment. I mean, investors have to get paid. But there's a way to get that. It's the way that you get there. It's the assumptions that you make. It's the timelines that you build. And it's the operational honesty that you have to bring to the table day one, because there's real consequences for real people who don't have a seat at the table when that model is being built. And here's the thing. I mean, value creation is not raising rents. Value creation starts with building or reinforcing that community standards and fields, building that culture inside the community. Value creation is in infrastructure investment. It's in converting renters to owners. It's in building a community where people choose to stay. It's putting in place professional management where maybe there was neglect before, and knowing that the rent increase becomes a component, but never the ultimate definition. So, I'm not claiming that we have all the answers, right? Every deal is different. Every capital structure is different. Preferred returns matter. If you're in a longer term play, maybe it's the multiple on the invested capital. That matters. But most importantly, it comes down to setting expectations clearly from the beginning of what this asset class or the opportunity really requires to create that value. And in leading with that value creation and understanding that the hard work comes first, right? The infrastructure, the cleanup, the site improvements, the infill, the resident relationships, that metric has to reflect in the execution and not the other way around. And having that longer term time horizon and really looking at how you're building that community to sit inside the platform, it's could be more challenging, but it's without a doubt more rewarding, because the operator who builds around the community, builds around the community's needs, and then earns a return, then what you're building is something durable. And if you're looking at the spreadsheet's needs, essentially you're the operator with the industrial building that has no truck parking. We're trying to be the former every single time. Frank Rizzo here with you. This has been another episode of the Mobile Home Park Exchange podcast. If you found value in this episode on the streaming platform that you're listening to, do us a favor and give us a rating and share that rating with us at the Mobile Home Park Exchange. And I'll send you a free copy of our after site visit report. It's the same report we use with our team on the ground to help ensure that our business plan is being executed and our team staying aligned. Until next time, everyone, happy investing.